Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is a little bit of a different video today. Today I'm going to break down how to construct lineups for GPPs and cash games for the Talladega race this weekend. Look, this is my favorite type of racing for DFS purposes. When you have the plate racing, which is Talladega and Daytona, and this weekend we have Talladega. And I just thought I should make a video going over a bunch of data and statistics that shows how to really build lineups, especially for different types of contests, because I think that's really important. Because there are, there's this is a way. I love this specific type of racing for DFS because there's a really good and easy way I think to get different. Because it used to be the way to get different was you just basically stack the back, but now everybody does that. So you have the two. It's basically the two sets of people making lineups. You got people who just basically stack everybody from the back, and then you got the people who don't really understand that concept, don't know anything, they just kind of play whoever. But there's a good way to get different. I'd like to dive into the data to get into that. There is big debate on, stacking the back versus not stacking the back. I've had it with people over time. I've been in those debates plenty of times. So I decided to just, break it down on how I feel about this. And all this data you can always get on my Patreon. I'll put the link down below for that, along with other stats, other projections, what I expect optimal lineups to look like, average optimal lineups for every single week, rankings, cash scores, all that good stuff, what drivers need to do to pay off their salaries, so which isn't really important this week, but, be sure to go, and that's for all three series combined too, by the way, so Cup Series, Xfinity, and Truck Series, $10 a month. Be sure to go hit that link down below. Make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to this channel. Got NASCAR DFS videos all year long. And this week too, I'm doing this video, then of course I'm going to have my normal picks videos for both the Cup Series and Xfinity Series, and then I'll be doing a live stream on Saturday and Sunday for each race. So be sure to stay tuned for that as well. Let's get into this data. I'm really excited to dive into this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through all the, I have the data, and I'm going to be going over both the Cup and Xfinity because they're a little bit different, but pretty much the same. I'm going to just go through every single past optimal lineup and explain what happened in every one of them. This is every plate race for the last 3 years, except for the 2019 Summer Daytona race, which got rained out in the middle of it. That race was wild. I don't really count that one because it's just a completely different story than what we've seen. So we're going to start out with the 2018 Daytona 500. And not even including really any drivers here, because it doesn't matter to me. All this is based on position. This is how I like to make lineups. I like to base my lineups on position. So 2018 Daytona 500, you had a driver starting 3rd, 14th, 37th, 16th, 21st, and 39th. You had a driver lead 118 laps, and then in the optimal lineup, and then 3 drivers that led only 1 and 2 that led 0. The salary on this lineup was $42,400. The most lap leader, the driver who led the most laps was optimal. That was Ryan Blaney. The 2018 Talladega Spring Race, you had a driver start 9th, 7th, 40th, 11th, 12th, and 25th. You had someone lead 70 laps, someone lead 4, someone lead 0, 2 lead 0, 1 lead 1, and 1 lead 26. The salary was only $47,500. The highest lap leader was optimal, and that was Joey Logano in this race. The 2018 Summer Daytona race, we had drivers start 13th, 29th, 28th, 24th, 25th, and 31st. We had a driver lead 20 laps, a driver lead 1 lap, a driver lead 17, a driver lead 1, and 2 lead 0. The salary was only $41,100, and the highest lap leader was not optimal. That was Ricky Stenhouse. In the 2018 Fall Talladega race, you had drivers start 20th, 4th, 34th, 30th, 25th, and 23rd. 4 drivers led 0 laps, 2 drivers led 1 lap. The salary was $47,800. The highest lap leader was not optimal, and that was Kurt Busch. The 2019 Daytona 500, you had 10th, 31st, 28th, 26th, 34th, and 36th. You had a driver lead 30 laps, a driver lead 37 laps, and 4 lead 0. The salary was $46,300. The highest lap leader was not optimal, and that was Matthew Benedetto. In 2019 Spring Talladega race, you had a driver start 8th, 11th, 24th, 30th, 29th, and 36th. You had a driver lead 37 laps, a driver lead 45 laps, a driver lead 5 laps, and 3 drivers lead 0 laps. The salary was $45,500. The highest lap leader was optimal, and that was Chase Elliott. In the 2019 Spring Talladega race, Fall Talladega race, you had a driver start 40th, a driver start 9th, a driver start 13th, a driver start 22nd, a driver start 34th, and 33rd. You had a driver lead 35 laps, a driver lead 3 laps, and 4 drivers lead 0 laps. The salary was $43,600. The highest lap leader was optimal. That was Ryan Blaney. And I must note that the second most laps led was only 3 less, so 32 laps led. and he lost only 2 place differential points and was still not optimal. So that's showing me that, maybe the lap sled weren't as important. This race, Ryan Blaney did win. I believe Stenhouse started 7th and finished 5th, led the second most laps, and was not optimal in that race. So, that does show me that, Ryan Blaney's finishing position in this race was more important than his lap sled. That's just what that tells me. The 2020 Daytona 500, you had a driver start 21st, 27th, 29th, 39th, 36th, and 30th. You had a driver lead 79 laps, a driver lead 4 laps, a driver lead 1 lap, 3 drivers lead 0 laps. The salary was $46,200. The driver who led the most laps was optimal, and that was Denny Hamlin. In the 2020 Spring Talladega race, you had a driver start 12th, 20th, 33rd, 18th, 15th, and 22nd. You had a driver lead 63 laps, a driver lead 5 laps, and 4 lead 0. The salary was $45,000. The main lap leader was optimal, and that was Ryan Blaney. In the 2020 Summer Daytona race, you had a driver start 27th, 10th, 40th, 6th, 21st, and 32nd. You had a driver lead 24 laps, a driver lead 9 laps, and then 4 drivers lead 0 laps. The salary for this race was $49,000. The main lap leader was not optimal, and that was Joey Logano. Main lap leader was not. And then in the Fall Talladega race, you had a driver start 21st, a driver start 16th, 30th, 28th, 35th, and 32nd. You had a driver lead 13 laps, a driver lead 2 laps, a driver lead 1 lap, and 3 lead 0. The salary for this lineup was $41,300. And the main lap leader was not optimal, and that was Joey Logano. And in the 2021 Daytona 500, you had a driver start 25th, a driver start 12th, 34th, 27th, 17th, and 39th. You had a driver lead 98 laps, driver lead 3 laps, 1 driver lead 2 laps, 2 lead 1, and 1 lead 0. The salary was $47,600. The main lap leader was optimal, and that was Denny Hamlin. So that's just really the rundown on the lineups. Now let's go look at what data I compiled really from that. So the first thing that we're going to want to look at when you're making your lineup for this race at Talladega, for any plate races, Talladega and Daytona, is where you're picking the driver starting in the starting position. So this is I'm talking really more specifically about GPPs. I'll run through Cash at the end. Cash is really simple to me for these plate races, but for GPPs, this is what we're really talking about here. You had a driver start in the top 12. This is so for the last 4 Talladega races, right? Or is it? Last 6 Talladega races, and a driver, and then just all the restrictor plates combined. In the top 12, you had on average 1.5 drivers starting inside the top 12 at the past Talladega races over the past 3 years, and on average of 1.16 drivers starting in the top 12 at restrictor plates over the last 3 years. Drivers starting between 13 and 25, you had on average 2 at Talladega, and on average of 1.9 at all restrictor plates, and then 26 and up, you had on average 2.5 at Talladega and 2.9 at restrictor plates. So that's really telling me is we're really just going to want to, it's going to be a mostly stack-to-back strategy for Talladega here, but you're going to want to get at least one driver up at the front for any tournament lineups. So if you're like me who likes some mass multi-enter tournament lineups, that's how I'm going to be breaking down the strategy. I'm going to probably do 1, maybe 2, but probably only 1. I don't usually like to do 2 guys starting at the front. Occasionally you do have lineups where it does happen, but personally I just prefer to go 1 driver starting in the top 12. Then I'm probably going to do two, maybe, probably 1 to 2 from 13 to 25, and then at least 2, and I'm probably going to set a rule for at least 2 drivers starting 26 up. Probably more getting like 3 of them. So I like to do a 3-2-1 strategy, but I also don't mind a 1-1-4 strategy, and I also don't mind a 2-2-2 strategy. Those are the ways that I would set up my lineups for these races. And obviously when I say 3-2-1, 3 drivers starting 26 and back, 2 drivers starting 13 to 25, and 1 driver starting top 12. When I say a 4-1-1, it's 4 drivers starting 26 on the back, 1 driver starting 13 to 25, and 1 driver starting in the top 12. And then a 2-2-2 would be 2 from each range. So that's how I would like to do lineups from the starting position. When we go look at laps led, so we've had drivers lead over 40 laps in 50% of Talladega races and under 40 laps in 50% of Talladega races. Same thing with restrictor plate races. You've had a driver lead over 40 laps, or in the optimal lineup. A driver in the optimal lineups race or lead over 40 laps and less than 40 laps in half the lineup. So that's really going to tell me that it's really a 50-50 chance you're going to have a guy in the optimal lineup that's going to be a big-time lap leader. So you don't necessarily need to build a lineup saying, this is going to be my dominator. I don't want to build a lineup this weekend saying, Joey Logano is going to be my lap leader and he's going to finish in the top 5. You don't know that because we'll get to Xfinity in a second, but just as an example, last year Chase Briscoe led 73 laps at Talladega, got shuffled all the way to the back with 2 laps to go, couldn't recover, and he wasn't optimal. He was in first place when that happened. That's just the nature of this race. I don't think you want to build a lineup expecting one of these guys to be a dominator. We'll go down to the bottom after this and show you how it's also really hard to predict who a dominator is going to be at these tracks versus other tracks where you have guys who lead laps more often. So this is just a race where I'm really just not worried about when I'm making my lineups a lap leader, because you can have a lap leader start anywhere in the field. That's just how it's going to be. For an example, let's go look at the Matt DiBenedetto year. This was the 2019 Daytona 500, I believe. He wasn't even the optimal lap, so never mind. But Matt DiBenedetto started farther in the back, and he was the highest lap leader. He wasn't optimal, though. So you just don't know who's going to be the lap leader. Probably, 7 times out of 10, I'm just round balling. I don't really have a specific data point. It is going to be someone probably starting up towards the front, especially the way lineups are built now. It's, we're not qualifying for races anymore. We're, actually just doing that draw thing that, they're the math lineup. I don't really know exactly what the word for that is. So you have the better drivers starting up towards the front, but still, I think who's the one driver that's going to be starting farther in the back this week? I forgot who it is. I think Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher's starting farther in the back, but if Chris Buescher leads, 70 laps in this race, I'm not going to be that surprised. But then I also wouldn't be surprised if he ends up wrecking and he isn't optimal. So you just don't want to build your lineups with the intent of saying this guy's going to be my dominator. Now, if you're building a tournament lineup and you're saying, I'm going to start. Who's starting up high this week? Probably not Kevin Harvick. He wrecked. Let's say Denny Hamlin's starting 4th this week. I actually haven't looked at what the projected starting lineup is, but Denny Hamlin's probably going to start high again. He might start in a pole, but you start him saying, this is my guy and I'm going to start in the front. That's going to be in the optimal lineup. That's how I'm playing it. I'm not playing it saying this guy's going to lead laps, because he's more than likely going to be in the optimal lineup, in my opinion, off of finishing position alone, not necessarily laps led. And fast laps are completely random at the track. You can get a fast lap leading a race, you can get a fast lap driving in the back. It's going to be completely scattered. Everyone's going to have a few by the end of the race, so I'm not really worried about fast laps. It's more laps led for this one. Next thing we're going to talk about is the salary. So this is another thing that I like to, that's really important for me at these plate races, is you don't really have to worry about the salary. Look, at the Cup Series at Talladega, we've had 0 lineups over the past 3 years. That was 0 optimal lineups over the past 3 years. That was, more than $49,000. One Daytona race was, but when you look at the mid-range, so anywhere between $45,000 and $49,000, 67% of the lineups were in that range at Talladega, and 58% of the restrictor plates were in that range. And then below $45,000, we have 33% of the lineups at Talladega and 42% of the overall restrictor plate races. So do not be worried about salary. If you're leaving $8,000 over in salary, don't be scared. Leaving $4,000 over in salary, don't be scared. I mean, I usually set rules to not make my lineups have a ton of salaries, especially for the Cup Series. For the Xfinity, it is a little bit different story, but for the Cup Series, I don't care. I really don't care. I want my lineups to be whatever. I'm basing them on starting positions for the most part. That's how I like to play these races. I'm not really worried about the salary. We'll see what DraftKings does. Recently they have been starting to price up the guys starting in the back of these plate races up more. We've seen Brendan Gaughan. He's not racing this year, but over the last year was getting like $8,000-9,000 salary, starting dead last. So that is something we do have to pay attention to. But still, for the most part, I'm just not too worried about that. I'm not going to be worried about my salary at all. When you look at the average lap, the most laps led optimal driver, or the driver who led the most laps was the optimal in the lineup. At Talladega, 67% of the time he was, and 33% of the time he wasn't. At restrictor plates overall, 58% of the time he was, and 42% of the time he wasn't. That's not like that, for the smaller sample size that we have on plate tracks, that's really not a lot, especially when you just look at restrictor plates overall. So I mean, yeah, if someone leads a ton of laps in this race and he finishes inside the top 5, he's probably going to be optimal. But we've seen multiple times, like we talked about the Stenhouse one, the second most laps led driver, it was only 33 that day, and you have days like that where someone does not stay out front all the time. I think the recency bias of Daytona is going to be in a lot of people's heads, where that race was different. There was that race was really weird. You had a big crash really early on that kind of made all the drivers really calm down. Then you had a rain delay, so everyone was just kind of riding around the track after that. And Denny Hamlin got out single file and led the whole race. That doesn't happen a lot, especially at Talladega. This is going to be a race where they're going to be different lap leaders all the time. So there's a very high possibility that you have the most laps led is 35 laps. And if he loses like 3 or 4 place differential spots, all those guys with all the place differential points are going to pass them. Because yes, laps led are important at the other tracks when you can lead like 100 150 laps, 80 to 100 laps. Those are going to be important. But when you only leave 30, they're only 0.25 points. It's really not that big of a difference, big of a deal when you have someone who starts 34th and he finishes 10th. That's going to be worth more points than that. So that's kind of how I like to look at that. And then predicting, if you do want to go for a lap leader, it's really hard to predict a lap leader. Not one driver has led more than 25%, have been a lap leader more than 25% in the restrictor plate races. Blaney and Logano have more than 25, have been the highest lap leader in more than 25% of the restrictor plate races. 17% for Hamlin, and then at Talladega, Logano was 33% at Talladega. Blaney 17%, Elliott 17%, Kurt Busch 17%. And Denny Hamlin's gonna be the chalky guy, but this, everyone's gonna play him as a lap leader, but he has never been he hasn't been the highest lap leader at Talladega in the last 3 years. So that is something to note when you're building lineups for this race. We'll go take a little look at Xfinity Series because most of the stuff is really the same. I did write a few notes in the 2018 Summer Daytona race. The driver who started second also led the same amount of laps as the highest lap leader. So both the guy who started 7th and the guy who started second both led 39 laps. That driver only lost 3 positions, and he was still not optimal. So that just really shows you, leading those laps, if you lose some positions, and that's not a lot. 3 positions is minus 3 points. That's really not that much. That's not something that on a normal race, there's some drivers who can pay off their salary in a week when they lose positions. So to say only lose 3 positions and still lead 39 laps and not be optimal, that really shows how much important that place differential is. I do have a few more notes on some of these optimal lineups. I think it might only be one more. Oh yeah, right here. So Ross Chastain was the highest lap leader in this race. He finished second. Ross Chastain led the most laps in this race, finished second, and still was not optimal. That to me just shows how important that place differential really is. That's just going to be something that I just want to note, that you can lead a ton of laps, finish second, and not be optimal. That's crazy to me. So that's unheard of on all the other tracks that are not restrictor plate races, to lead the most amount of laps and finish second and not be optimal. It's pretty unheard of. I think that was, there's one more down here. Let's see what I wrote. Austin Cindric won the race, led the most laps in the Daytona race earlier this year, and was not optimal. So yeah, that's going to be something to note as well. The highest lap leader won the race in Daytona, the 2021 Daytona race earlier this year, was not optimal. Place differential is more important. I believe most of this stuff was really the same. When you have I put it down to 30 because these Xfinity Series races are a little bit longer. 50% of drivers, or 50% of lineups had a driver lead over 30 in it. And Talladega, and 60% had a driver lead over 30 at all restrictor plates. When I'm making the lines, it's going to be really similar. The same strategy occurs when you see 1.5, 1.75, 2.75. Really similar stats to the Cup Series there. The one thing that I will note is maybe spending your salary a little more here is important, because in 50% of races at Talladega, we have seen the optimal line be more than $49,000, and 40% of restrictor plate races. So I'd be willing to spend a little bit more money on the I'm still not really overall too worried about salary, but I'm probably not going to set a rule on Fantasy Cruncher this week to not put to cap it at 49,000. I'm probably not going to do that for the Xfinity Series. When you have the most laps led optimal, actually Talladega 75% of the time the most lap leader was optimal. But at restrictor plate, it was still split half and half. So I'm still not going to be going in there looking to find a lap leader, and then I don't know who the lap leader is going to be. Look. I didn't put every single lap leader from the past few ones because the drivers aren't in it, but Hemrick, Annett, Burton, Cindric, and Allmendinger all were the highest lap leader in one race at a restrictor plate track in the last 3 years. So, yeah. I think that's really all I got on this video. It's a little just short video going over how to build lineups. I didn't go over cash lineups. Cash lineups, stack to back. You want the highest floor for cash. You want to play 6 drivers starting 20th on back. That's how I would do it. That's how I would build cash. But yeah, I think that's really all I got. Thank you guys so much for being here. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Go hit that. Go follow me on Twitter at @Natelane_. I'll put the link down below. If you want to subscribe to my Patreon, it's $10 a month. I'll put the link down there for that as well. Stay tuned we got 4 more videos coming up this weekend about NASCAR. 2 live streams Saturday, Sunday, where I can go over all questions you have. If you want to ask me questions on Twitter, be sure to do that as well. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, and be sure to tune in later on in the week for more videos.